I'm pretty sure that Transformers is definitely a sincere work, and when the Autobots appear, this scene will go down in history forever, just like a scene from a childhood dream that has come to life. Watch. The Autobots complete an epic meeting with humans on the big screen. In particular, the close-up of Optimus Prime's face is vivid, as if a normal human being is talking to himself. A film critic in the New York Times kept the passage on track. Sergei unconsciously clenched his fists and subconsciously said, "I think I will be shocked by this picture for the rest of my life." He suddenly looked at Eric next to him. "Working with MGM and working with you is definitely the right choice Hasbro has ever made." Eric smiled slightly, then sighed again. "No, it's not perfect enough, at least not as good as I expected." Huh. Sergei, in my original conception, a blockbuster like Transformers was actually very suitable for 3D rendering. Can you imagine what it would be like when Optimus Prime's face stepped out of the big screen and actually came in front of you? What does it feel like when two mechanical giants fight and the exploding parts smash directly into your eyes? Feeling the picture depicted by Eric, Sergei was not only a little fascinated. It's a pity that the technology is not mature enough. Peter Jackson and I tried it, but the results are not as good as 2D. I have no choice but to give up. Maybe in a few years until the technology is perfect, I can put it into use. Maybe it's time for the third part. Sergei nodded firmly. It will definitely happen. I am looking forward to this day. On the big screen, the plot continues. Sam takes the Autobots back to his home to find glasses, and then the information technology specialist, played by Kala Savini, manages to decipher the key information. Ryan Reynolds returned with his troops, and after a great battle in the desert, only 9 of the more than 30 people were killed, and the British trio were wounded one by one. In order to delay Ryan Reynolds to contact support, they all fell under the fire of the Scorpions. But they also brought back useful information. That is, the Transformers are not invincible as long as they focus on attacking a little at any cost. This group of mechanical monsters will also be injured and killed. They also found that the mechanical monsters seem to be more focused on protecting their chests, which may be a weakness. Then the security bureau came to the door and took the hero and heroine to the police car and escorted them away. Optimus Prime was forced to show up and save the two, but it also attracted the capture of the army. Due to the principle of not harming humans, the Autobots were bound and could only be passively protected, and finally the Bumblebee was frozen away by liquid nitrogen. This scene suddenly made countless people feel congested. Is it so difficult to be a good person? If they let go like the Decepticons, there won't be enough people to fight. In fact, if you stand in the perspective of Earthlings and face unknown threats, then there is no problem with what the US military and the Ministry of Defense do. But the audience empathizes with the Autobots, and the US military in Hollywood movies almost does not do good things. So, when facing the Decepticons, the audience will cheer for the US military. But when confronted by the Autobots, the audience immediately turned their guns around and began cursing at the soldiers. At this time, the scene shifts to the Hoover Dam, and our by-a-bed President Megatron finally shines. Faction: Decepticons. Name: Megatron. Morph Mimic: Cybertron Alien Fighter. Abilities: Meteor Hammer, Telescopic Energy Hand Cannon, Neutrino Missile, Super Armor, Regenerative Armor. Much higher than the size of the average Transformer, only Optimus Prime can match it. And the biggest secret of the movie was revealed. As you can see, we call him Alien 1, Sam, and your great-great-grandfather dug him up in the North Pole in one of the greatest discoveries in human history. Most of the modern technology you see is extracted from Alien 1 little by little, including the Army's fighter jets, tanks, artillery, but also all kinds of vehicles running on the road, steel cruise ships at sea, etc. That's why those mechanical monsters transform into sports cars or fighter jets, because these things belong to them. The First time I saw Megatron, everyone was shocked. And just when they were shocked, little bit confusion managed to sneak in, and the news of Megatron and the source of fire was passed on to all the Decepticons. Villains assembled. Faction: Decepticons. Name: Red Spider. Metamorphic Mimic, F-22 Raptor Fighter. Capabilities: Decentralized Superconducting Cruise Missile, High-Speed Rotating Machine Gun, Neutrino Destruction Beam, Regenerative Armor. Faction: Decepticons. Name: Noisy. Morph Mimic, General Dynamics M1A1 Abrams Modified Main Battle Tank. Abilities: Double-Edged Claw, High-Speed Rotating Gatling Gun, Shoulder Cannon, Blossom Howitzer Strike Cannon, Regenerative Armor. Faction: Decepticons. Name: Bone Crusher. Deformation Mimicry, Buffalo Anti-Mine Counterattack Vehicle. Abilities: Powerful Hook, Mine Clearance, Cluster High Break Laser Gun, Regenerative Armor. As a fighter, the Red Spider was the first to reach Hoover Dam around the mountains and completed its transformation while still in the air. The robotic arm swung forward, and more than a dozen cruise missiles immediately turned around and slammed into the dam. The dam, which was claimed to be able to withstand a nuclear explosion, was suddenly blown up with rubble. They're here. They know the source of the fire is here. Sam's face was eager. Hurry up and let my car go. Only he knows what to do with this situation. Seeing the arrival of a strong enemy, the Bumblebee was released, and the source of the fire was recovered, and the group hurriedly withdrew from the Hoover Dam. Since the signal has been interfered with, it is commonly used to pass the message system could not send a message. It was difficult to seek support from the army, and the arrival of the Decepticons was imminent. In order to protect the source of the fire from being lost, the group could only move towards the nearest city, Las Vegas. Because there are 5 elite brigades stationed there, a combined force of nearly 20,000 people, which should be able to repel the attack of the Decepticons. Luckily, they arrived in Las Vegas first and finally communicated with the nearby garrison through the old-fashioned radio. And jointly with the municipal government to evacuate the people, enter the basement, subway, and other civil air defense projects, and those who cannot be evacuated are required to stay at home and never go out. The goal of the military and the government has been set, that it is best to be able to resolve the fighting outside the city and to prepare for the worst if it is not. At the same time, inside the Hoover Dam, Megatron breaks the ice, and at this time the movie has come to the second half, and there is only half an hour left before the end, and the ultimate villain finally appears. "I am Megatron," shouts the iconic line, and the human side squirts nitrogen, but can't freeze Megatron again. Several missiles were fired from his back, colliding with the Red Spider and instantly knocking down half of the solid Hoover Dam. The alien fighter plane broke out of the cage and flew into the sky. The Red Spider immediately jumped out to show his loyalty. "Always loyal to you, Lord Megatron." Megatron didn't look at it and asked to himself, "Where is the source of the fire?" The Red Spider hurriedly pointed to the distance and shook the pot. "Snatched by humans, they are on the run." "You've let me down again, Red Spider." Saying this famous line, scolding Red Spider is his daily routine anyway, and the relationship between the two is also a bit of love and killing. Suddenly, the 3 forces of Decepticons, Autobots, and humans march towards the World Casino at the same time. "Damn, I want to go to the toilet. It must be because of Ice Coke. What should I do?" "Brother, you have to go by yourself. Don't you see that the final battle is about to start? I don't want to miss a minute. Bear with me, I have to put up with it." All the viewers stared intently at the big screen. The majestic background music sounded, and tens of thousands of soldiers began to mobilize intensively in the military base. Check the radar. Debug the sighting system. Reload your ammunition. The 49th Infantry Brigade has been mobilized, and all 4,145 men are in place. The 15th Armored Brigade was assembled and pulled out in 10 minutes. The 27th Motorized Infantry Brigade has been mobilized and has set off along Route 77, finished. The 11th Air Brigade is all in position and requests to take off. The 8th Tank Brigade is being mobilized and is expected to be fully equipped in 15 minutes. I'm Captain William Lennox, and this time we're facing an enemy like we've never seen before, disguised as our companions, and with terrifying firepower and armor. But the enemy is not invincible. They also have weaknesses. As long as an attack is intensively launched in one place, even the thickest armor will be broken. This is our only hope. On Route 77, hundreds of armored vehicles lined up, each with well-dressed soldiers sitting in each troop carrier. Report: an unknown vehicle was found ahead, a police car, an Abrams tank, and a demoning and explosion-proof vehicle, such a strange match. Hearing this, the commander was a little alert, but the Decepticons who had really shown up were only dizzy, so he couldn't be sure. What if it was an ally? After only a moment's hesitation, the distance between the two sides had been reduced to less than 100 meters. Decepticons attack. Kiki-ka-kuka. In the shocked eyes of the leading vehicle, the barricades, bone shatterers, and noise were deformed at the same time. The three Decepticons fill the road, and missiles, laser guns, hooks, howitzers, all weapons are fired at the same time. The armored vehicle at the front was lifted off in an instant, and the multi-ton vehicle was like a baby, turning into scrap metal in the claws of the bone crusher. A thick barrel formed on the noisy shoulder, filled with rich green energy. I saw a cannon training across hundreds of meters, and all the chariots blocking the road instantly vaporized. Disperse. Disperse for a point attack. The commander commanded and called for help. Call for support, call for air support. The 27th Motorized Infantry Brigade encountered enemy troops. Coordinates: Route 77, 10 kilometers south of Las Vegas. The enemy's fire is too fierce. Please support immediately. Roger, air support will arrive immediately. Be sure to stop the enemy from entering Las Vegas, no matter what. Boom, boom. After dispersing, the situation improved. But in the open field, the Decepticons were so agile that they couldn't lock on, let alone concentrate their attacks. In the blink of an eye, many soldiers died. Above the sky, suddenly an F-22 and a helicopter gunship flew over. Some of the soldiers raised their heads, tears almost flowing. Air support has finally arrived. But then, disillusioned, Red Spider and Vertigo launched a fierce attack on the ground. It's the enemy, and it's those mechanical monsters. In just a few minutes, an integrated motorized infantry brigade, one of the most elite units of the U.S. military, with nearly 4,000 troops, has lost more than half of its ranks. Just when the soldiers were already desperate, a large group of 25 Raptor F-22s flew over the sky, and air support finally arrived. Everyone should pay attention to the fact that the fighter plane in front of you is a disguise of the enemy. The fighter formation, which had already received the news in advance, immediately launched an encirclement and suppression of the Red Spider. 22-1. The Red Spider is again notoriously crispy, even with regenerative armor, even if human weapons do limited damage to him. But after being hit by several missiles in a row, it was still a little unbearable. Boom. Boom. What's going on? What the hell is that? Suddenly, a silvery white phantom streaked across the sky at an extremely fast trajectory, and several F-22s that could not dodge were instantly cut and exploded. And Megatron, with armor far beyond ordinary Transformers, was unscathed at all. Red Spider, do you want to run away again? Red Spider hurriedly flew behind Megatron's ass. Of course not. I'm just seducing these stupid humans. Megatron didn't bother to pay attention to the other party, because he had already seen the appearance of his opponent, and the Autobot army led by Optimus Prime had arrived on the battlefield. Jazz, ambulance, and Ironhide fight with Bone Crusher, noise, and barricades. The beam of energy shot into the sky, and Megatron dodged it in a corner. Decepticons, attack the city. Our goal is to recapture the source of the fire. Saying that, he didn't care about the others, and took the lead and flew towards the casino not far away. Under the orders of the boss, the other Decepticons no longer fell in love with the battle and rushed to the city one after another. The Autobots followed closely behind, but the Decepticons didn't stop as they bombarded indiscriminately. Left behind him was devastated, and in the far vista were broken chariots and craters. On the streets of Las Vegas, Captain William looked at Sam and said, "Do you hear the cannons? Your job is to protect the source of the fire. Now go to the tarmac in the middle of the square, and a Black Hawk gunship will pick you up shortly. Get on the plane and hurry to Washington." But the distance of 10 kilometers was in the blink of an eye, and before he could finish arranging it, the silver-white fighter plane had already transformed into Megatron and stepped on a small 3-story building. "Human, give me the source of the fire." Megatron roared and grabbed at Sam, and Bumblebee hurriedly turned to block it. A set of silky small combo moves kicked in Mr. Way's face, although the damage was not great, but it was extremely insulting. Enraged, Megatron went on the spot, and the energy meteor hammer smashed out, instantly destroying Bumblebee's left leg. Just as he was about to smash each other's heads with a hammer, the red and blue Optimus Prime Divine Soldiers descended from the sky, and the two big brothers fought head-on. Megatron transforms into an alien fighter once again, taking Optimus Prime on a rampage. In slow motion, two connected high-rise buildings were violently penetrated and exploded. Oh! Ah! At the same time, the Autobots and Decepticons enter the casino at the same time, and a street battle begins. Waves of laser missile energy flew all over the sky, streets were destroyed, and countless high-rise buildings collapsed. Looking at the trembling ceiling and the constantly falling debris, the residents of the casino shivered as they hid in the basement and in the Civil Air Defense Project. Tens of thousands of soldiers poured into the city to fight, which was different from the open area just now. Due to the cramped space in the city, the Decepticons' advantage of agility is gone, and human weapons are able to hit them more accurately. "Come on, Megatron Cubs, let Uncle Tin give you some color." A missile struck the Bone Crusher in the shoulder, knocking one of his arms into pieces. Ironhide flew to pluck the opponent's head, but was pinned down by the claws on the back of the Bone Crusher demon. Two iron lumps rolled back and forth on the street, crushing countless vehicles. Seeing that stalemate was not the way to go, William picked up a bazooka and shot it, accurately hitting the steel claw junction on the back of the Bone Crusher demon. The clamping force weakened, and the iron sheet immediately came out, and a shot hit the opponent's chest armor. Bone Shatterer's chest cracked open in an instant, and the blue flame shone through. Attack his tinder. With the roar of the iron skin, the British trio drove the tank at great speed, pinning the Bone Crusher to a dilapidated house, and the barrel of the cannon slammed into the opponent's chest. Boom! Boom! The flames burst into flames, engulfing the entire street and taking the Bone Crusher and the British trio with them. The French shark fulfilled his promise and died with the Decepticons. When Eric was filming this scene, he didn't intend to keep the three of them alive. Because it is destined to become popular under his practicing, if this one doesn't die, fans of the next one will ask where they went. It's better to just die, and you can only shoot other scenes when you die. Get out of the way. On another street, Godot is driving a pickup truck with an injured Bumblebee in it. For a moment, it was as if the car god possessed him, and with the assistance of Captain William, he took out the noise. This scene fully shows the personal charm of the heroine. And on the real core battlefield, Optimus Prime and Megatron are engaged in a fierce battle. The collision of the energy sword and the meteor hammer shattered several streets into puddles of mud in an instant. But Optimus Prime's firepower was still not as good as Megatron's, and he was bombarded by the other party and flew into the building. Humans don't deserve to live. Give me the source of fire. The huge steel claws gripped at Sam again. At this time, a formation of Black Hawk gunships joined the battlefield and fired wildly at Megatron. Tanks and howitzers in the distance also came and fired heavily at him. The impact caused Megatron to take a few steps back, and he was annoyed by a few energy cannons that killed the soldiers. But at the moment when he was distracted, Optimus Prime flew out and hit him in the chest with a shot, shattering his armor and revealing Megatron's fire. Megatron also smashed his legs with a single blow, and both Transformers fell to the ground at the same time. Sam, he's recovering fast. Get the fire into my body. Faced with Optimus Prime's self-sacrificing roar, Sam found that Megatron's fire was right in front of him. The kindling cause. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration and came with a reverse output. Boom! By a bed, Megatron never imagined that he would fall in such a dramatic way. Seeing the defeat of the boss, the other Decepticons fled immediately without any hesitation, and the Battle of Vegas finally came to an end. Victorious. We are victorious. The surviving soldiers burst into tears and hugged each other. And as the camera zooms out and pulls up, under the lens is the devastated casino and the hidden Decepticons. The war will continue. Producer, Eric Cooper. Director, Eric Cooper. Writer, Eric Cooper. Starring, Chris Evans, Gal Gadot, Ryan Reynolds. This battle fully demonstrates the courage of humanity. They do not need anyone's salvation and domination. They have the ability to make decisions about their own future, and they are worthy of respect. I am Optimus Prime, and due to the damage to the Tinder source, it will take us a long time to repair it, and the Earth will become our new home. I send a call to the Autobots in space. If you have good intentions, please come here and protect our new home. With a monologue of Optimus Prime, the picture falls on the tombstone that is not in sight. Each tombstone symbolizes a dead soldier. The camera then briefly shows the Autobots and the remnants of the Decepticons, each of whom has set up a secret base. Red Spider gathers Vertigo and barricades and sets himself up as the leader to establish a new Decepticon. Finally, the scene cuts to a dark space, the deepest part of the ocean, connected by volcanic craters. Megatron's silver-white body lay silently, covered in ice once more. Suddenly, a trace of black energy seeped out of the crater and enveloped Megatron. The ice cracked, and the silver fingers moved. The Easter eggs ended, and the 2.5-hour movie came to an end. In the midst of the excitement, mixed with some melancholy in the closing song, the subtitles begin to roll and a long credits appear. Bang, bang, bang. The lights in the cinema were back on, and although the music was loud, it could not hide the applause from the audience. Then the sisters Nico, Theron, and Olsen took the lead in standing up and applauding, and the other stars immediately followed suit. Then there were a lot of spectators, many of whom spontaneously stood up and gave a round of applause. All sorts of voices of praise shouted from their mouths. It's so exciting, an unbeatable visual feast. This is the best movie I've ever seen this year. Autobot Transfiguration. You're so cool, Gadot. All of a sudden, it seemed like it had become canon. There's a tradition in Cannes that when the audience thinks the film is good enough, they spontaneously applaud. The longer the applause, the more exciting the movie. There is no doubt that Transformers belongs to the ultimate commercial blockbuster. Let the audience feel the restlessness of blood in the cold winter. Especially the final battle, which lasted for more than half an hour, made many people unconsciously clench their fists, and when they found out, their palms were already soaked with sweat. Amid warm applause, Eric led the protagonists to the forefront. He made significant changes to the plot in the second half, such as the Tinder source was not destroyed, but only temporarily damaged. Although the Decepticons were defeated, the true Titan only lost Megatron, Bone Crusher, and Noise. The Autobots were all badly damaged, but fortunately they were assisted by an ambulance, and all of them survived. Jazz was not torn in half by Megatron in a daze, and the 911 picture was enough to express Megatron's arrogance. The losses of mankind were very heavy, and tens of thousands of soldiers died in this battle, which fully demonstrated the tragedy of this great war, and also reflected the determination and courage of mankind to defend their homeland. The final Easter egg is naturally a foreshadowing for the second part, and he intends to completely abandon Michael Bay's version and adopt the plot adaptation of the Transformers high-scoring animation Proof of Leadership. The applause and cheers continued for several minutes before stopping, and the crowd began to interact with the audience. Thank you. Thank you all for your support. Eric joined the crowd in thanking the audience, and at this moment, he suddenly felt excited. The first film that I really directed was loved by the audience. Even though he has been a human being for 2 lifetimes and is still in a high position in the entertainment industry in this life, this feeling is the first time he has experienced it. Different from the touting of those stars, this is from the audience's real love. It is pure, not mixed with selfishness. It is they who really like their works. It's a wonderful, and intoxicating feeling. Next to him, Godot threw himself into his arms very excitedly, but fortunately did not kiss him. Eric woke up instantly and hurriedly quietly glanced down. I found that several women were staring at me in a daze, except for Theron, who had a suspicious look in her eyes. With a sudden burst in his heart, he hurriedly hugged the rest of the crew in turn, and everyone was treated, so that it didn't seem strange. In the audience, a teenage boy asked excitedly, "Director, I want to know which is more powerful, Megatron or Optimus Prime?" Eric replied without thinking, "I think it's not that simple if Optimus Prime wasn't trying to protect Sam and Megatron wanted to hurt him." Chris Evans shrugged his shoulders and made an innocent expression. "So you blame me? Ha 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 ha." "Director, will Red Spider become the villain of the second part? After all, he has now become the new leader of the Decepticons." Eric shook his head slightly. "This question has been answered by past animations and manga. You should go there to find it." "Director, I feel that Megatron has too few scenes, and he was killed again just after he appeared. Will he return in the second part?" Eric nodded slightly. "I think so, but it may not be the kind of return that everyone imagined." This instantly grabbed Huadian. "So you're already thinking about the second part? Is it going to be released next year's Christmas file?" Eric slapped his head, showing some regret. "Let's all take a break, bro. In order to satisfy everyone and live up to the trust of Hasbro and Transformers fans, we are the crew. Thousands of people really did their best. Yes, the script for the second part is indeed in the process of being conceived, but I can't guarantee that it will be released next Christmas. But what I can guarantee is that the plot and scenes of the second part will be even more magnificent, and we will still do our best to do our best." Bang! Bang bang! The cinema burst into applause again. Looking at the young man on the stage who was talking and laughing, Spielberg couldn't help but push his glasses. There are still scenes replaying in his mind, especially the Battle of Las Vegas at the end, and even he, an old canon who has watched countless movies and has a lot of experience, can't help but be moved. The emotional mobilization, the devastating battle, and the tragedy of the British trio's suicidal attack vividly reflect the game of the 3 forces of humans, Autobots, and Decepticons. More than half an hour of content, thousands of people mobilized, every minute and second were not wasted. Everything was like the optimal result after countless edits. He really doubts now, is Eric Cooper really a first-time director? Or is he like in the science fiction movie, Back to the Future? He is riding a time machine back from the future. If DreamWorks had really won the rights to adapt Transformers, would it have been able to do as well as MGM? Spielberg asked himself, but couldn't give a definite answer. Also secretly lamenting is Peter Jackson. This bearded man also made a special trip to Cheer today. After reading it, I admired my own wisdom, and the contract I signed with MGM was too correct. Although Weta Digital made less money, it also allowed The Lord of the Rings to avoid this behemoth, and it was completely able to make up for it at the box office, and its own profit would only be more. The Knight of Middle-earth faced the Iron Giant of Cybertron. Even if it was the final chapter of the trilogy, he was a little uncertain. At the same time, in cinemas around the world, a large number of audiences sat there for a long time and were reluctant to leave until the ending song and subtitles were finished, and then they reluctantly got up. Some movie theaters will habitually turn on the lights after the plot ends, deliberately destroying the movie-watching atmosphere and driving fans away. But this time, those who dared to do so were all booed and reprimanded, and the projectionist could only turn off the lights again and quietly exit, obediently waiting for the last few minutes to end. Los Angeles. A couple is struggling with the ballot, but a dozen interesting movies undoubtedly make it difficult to choose. The man saw a group of high-spirited young people walking across the street, and it seemed that they were enjoying the movie. I couldn't help but ask, "Brother, what movie did you watch?" "Transformers, of course," replied in unison. "Is it good-looking?" "I mean, it's not exciting." "Of course, bro, you have to choose it. No movie other than Transformers is worth waiting here in the middle of the night." Yes, I guarantee that after reading it, even in the face of armed bandits, you will dare to come forward and show your manly charm. The movie is so popular. Have you watched the third part of The Matrix? The man nodded. I like Neo. The Zion battle is really exciting. The other side immediately laughed. Then you should go to see Transformers, the final battle of Las Vegas. It will be more spectacular than you imagined. Even though I'm a fan of The Matrix, my perception is that the Battle of Zion is a bit of a nowhere near it. Is it really as good as you guys say? I was tricked into going to the cinema by Sharknado last Christmas, and it turned out to be a terrible movie, even though I wanted to see a sequel this year. Ha ha ha. I advise you to hurry up and buy tickets. In the few minutes you talk to us, it is likely that the second show has already been sold out. The man no longer hesitated and hurriedly walked to the counter. 2 tickets for Transformers, thank you. Sir, there are only 5:30 a.m. tickets left. Do you still need them? What? What about the 250 ticket? The conductor pointed to the back of the group of young people who had just left, as they say, sold out. Actually, you can't buy it even if you are 2 hours in advance, and the first 2 shows of the midnight show are already booked. So I suggest you watch The Polar Expedition first, and then move on to Transformers. Polar Expedition? Do you want your girlfriend to scold me to death? I don't even watch that kind of bad movie ticket. Behind him, the tightly disguised Harvey Weinstein happened to pass by, and the mood that was already frightened by Transformers suddenly burned with anger. The half-orc immediately retorted, I just watched Polar Expedition. The movie is very good. Whether it is audiovisual or plot, it is not worse than Transformers. You should try it. Huh. That kind of movie is only for middle-aged people like you, and my cousin went to see it the day before yesterday, and he told me that the movie was boring. If you want to reminisce about the past, you can go and see The Polar Expedition, but at this time, it is really self-defeating. The recommendation didn't work, but was ridiculed, and Harvey Weinstein was even more angry. He still wanted to continue arguing, but the other party had already been dragged away by his girlfriend. The nameless fire grew stronger and stronger, and finally all the anger was directed at Eric. Bastard! If it weren't for this kid, Chicago would have won Best Picture. It's this kid who doesn't follow the rules again, and Polar Expedition has a bleak future. Bastard! It's all the fault of this stinky boy. It's everything he ruined, and I'm going to make him pay. In the apartment, Eric sat in a chair and Godot sat on his lap. Tonight, he had to accompany Godot no matter what, and he could only decline other people's invitations under the pretext of family. Alas, invisibly, my father and mother have given too much for their feelings. Click, click. The mouses clicked quickly, and Godot has to refresh the web page every minute or two. Yes, 8.6. Dear, we got an 8.6. Finally, she shouted excitedly, pointing at the screen and shouting excitedly. IMDb, by far the nation's most authoritative rating site, has only been around for more than an hour since the premiere of Transformers. It was almost 4 o'clock in the morning, and the number of ratings finally reached the standard, and the brilliant score of 8.6 points was there. At this moment, I don't know how many people are staying in front of the computer, like the two of them. This score is due to a large number of fans who don't even sleep after watching the premiere, and they log in overnight to comment. My dear, with a score of 8.6 for commercial films and 24,566 ratings, we have made history, and looking at all commercial films, it is estimated that they can also rank in the top 10. Oh my God, I feel my heart beating so fast. You touch my face to see if it's red? Godot's incoherent appearance made Eric laugh. He scratched the other party's nose and said, "It's just a score, and as the number of evaluations rises, it will definitely come down. After all, it's still a commercial popcorn movie, even if it's a freshness bonus. But I'm thankful for 8 points." Godot snorted, "I don't care. I'm going to record this moment with my camera and show it to my family. I want them to know that you're not lying. You're going to turn me into a star. You're going to turn me into a world-class female star. Honey, I love you. I love you so much that I can't help myself. Touch my heart. Does it beat faster and faster?" Eric nodded. Not only did it jump faster and faster, but it was also very hot. As he spoke, Eric slowly lowered his head. On November 17th, with the release of the first-day box office data of Transformers, the entire North American film market was flattened. Even though many people already knew that the box office would be high, they still didn't expect it to be so high. After the craziest opening day, with the blessing of rave reviews, Transformers hit the North American box office on its first day of $45.1 million. What is the concept of this number? The current top-notch first-day box office in film history is Spider-Man Last Summer, with a $39.4 million result that broke the jaws of many film critics at the time, and it was considered impossible for a film to surpass it in 3 years. And now, less than a year and a half later, Transformers has raised that number by nearly $6 million on the premise of its release on Monday. With only a month and a half left before the end of the year, I am afraid that only The Lord of the Rings 3 can match it. But it's only possible, not to mention that Peter Jackson didn't dare to boast about Haikou. Even the most arrogant Lord of the Rings fans have to speak cautiously at this time, because Autobot fans are not easy to mess with. A new king ascends the throne. At this point, a new film history record. Birth. Choosing the midnight scene of Transformers is definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made this year, and it's more exciting than you can imagine. I really want to tell you the plot, but I know that spoilers are going to get beaten, so all I can say is that it's awesome and everyone should watch it. A Facebook user with the nickname No Snow in Florence posted a post with a movie ticket for Transformers. As a veteran Facebook user, he has been using the software since its launch and loves it. Especially after MySpace was launched, he also created an account, but after the experience, he found that the users above were too sideways and confused. The situation of pornographic jokes and soft pornography is very serious, and all the spiritual guys and spiritual girls are attracting attention by exposing themselves. These people often post stories about race, flaunting their wealth, promiscuity, and other things that look cool, but are actually disgusting. And when he wants to enter someone else's homepage, it often takes more than 10 seconds to load, and after entering, he is often blinded by the other party's colorful homepage. If there is only one large social software on the market, MySpace, it is fine, but you don't have to choose. But after experiencing the efficiency, convenience, and simplicity of Facebook, it almost takes less than 3 seconds to swipe anyone's homepage, and the contrast between the two is too obvious. Besides, soft pornography is not really astringent. The key parts are still covered, and after watching it for a few days, he gets tired of aesthetics, so he returned to Facebook. After long-term operation, it has accumulated nearly 300,000 followers, and it is also a well-known internet celebrity. However, Facebook has not yet turned on revenue functions such as ads, so it is currently mainly spiritual enjoyment, but it also makes many people happy. Shortly after Florentina posted the news that it won't snow, the number of likes exceeded 1,000, and there are quite a few comments below. Fish who loves diving. I just finished watching Transformers this morning, and I very much agree with you. It is really an extremely good and sincere work. Originally, I expected 70 points. After all, there is only 1 year of production, and passing is enough. But I really underestimated Eric Cooper. The official record is that he's only 23 years old, 2 years younger than me, but he's done a fantastic job. Explosions, collisions, conflicts, beauties, incense cars, wars, in short, everything you want is there, and I'm willing to give Transformers a 90. Tinder. Matrix. Also just out of the cinema, I must say it really fulfilled my fantasy of Transformers. Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Megatron, Red Spider, Vertigo. Just like the trailer, each Transformer has a vivid and unique look and scene. The fiery action and war scenes are far more exciting than the trailer, and the movie fully deserves 5 stars. It's just that there's a bit of sadness in it, especially when those soldiers sacrifice themselves to launch a desperate attack on the Decepticons, and I'm moved. Maybe my tears are lower, but I was really touched by these episodes. Originally, my nickname was the Curse of the Black Pearl, but it was just changed, and I admit that I defected, but I don't regret it. Some people praise the high quality of the movie, which is for Transformers, and some people praise the actors, who go for handsome guys and beautiful women. Users with the nickname Daughter of the Sea posted a poster featuring the main characters such as Chris Evans, Godot, and Ryan Reynolds. As a woman, I'm not of Transformers, and it was Barbie that accompanied my childhood. But there are really no good works in the cinema now. I watched Happy Death Day some time ago, and I also watched Sharknado. I had a good impression of Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds, so I was pulled by my boyfriend to see Transformers. The big guys were very good at playing against each other, but the one that attracted me the most was Gal Gadot, who was really beautiful and heroic. Her performance in Transformers is completely different from Happy Death Day, which makes her look like a bitch and a girl next door. And the former is on full display of her sensuality and force, and looking at her in the dirt and scars and fighting bravely, you would say it's just cool. If I were a man, I would definitely fall in love with her. Ryan Reynolds turned my imagination on its head. He was a complete goofy fork in Sharknado, but here he became the toughest and bravest warrior. Although the playing time is not as good as Sam's, I always feel that Captain William is the real hero. I wonder if you feel the same way as me? Seeing that Facebook users had such a strong desire to share, Eric immediately arranged a task for Fitz to do an official event promotion. Tweet the event directly to all users, and as long as you post the news of watching Transformers, the background will crawl all users. After 1 week, 500 users will be randomly selected from all participating users to receive 10 free tickets each. Users can dispose of these tickets at will, and they can see them themselves, give them to friends and family, or sell them. It has been proven countless times that when your movie is good enough, people spontaneously become taps. And when the film itself has taken a strong propaganda offensive and its quality can still match its publicity, people are more willing to run to tell each other. However, if the quality is not worthy of the scale of your publicity, it is likely to form a backlash, and the audience will have a rebellious mentality. Transformers obviously belongs to the former, and it can be worn as a crown and as a position. So, in addition to many Facebook users spontaneously promoting, many users of the rival MySpace are also helping to promote, as well as portals, major forums, blogs, chat rooms, movie websites, etc. Outside of the United States, other countries that were released at the same time were also in the same scene. In Japan, on the streets of Shibuya, Tokyo, Yoshikawa walked out of the movie theater alone, with a somewhat complicated expression. As an office worker in his 30s, he has never been in the mood to watch movies since the bursting of Japan's economic bubble and the era of loss. Every day I am overwhelmed by heavy work. I have to nod my head and bow down in the company, and when I get home, I have to face the faces of my wife and children because of financial constraints, and dignity seems to have become a luxury. When he dreams back at midnight, he often dreams of his childhood, when he was still in elementary and middle school, when the Japanese economy was still in its golden age, and he claimed that he could buy the United States by selling Tokyo. Father, brother, and mother would be by their side, and everyone would watch their favorite cartoon, Transformers, together, and the feeling was called happiness. Standing in front of the movie theater for a long time, Yoshikawa finally walked to the public phone booth and threw a coin. Mashi Mashi, this is the Yoshikawa family. Who is you? Augustin, it's me. Arrow, what's wrong with your voice? Sounds strange. It's nothing, by the way. A movie was just released recently. Why don't we go and watch it together? I'll take Xiaoyu and Ryoma. You take your mother, plus my brother's family. But your mother and I are in our 60s and have no interest anymore. What happened to you today? Did something happen? I didn't have Augustin, but I suddenly remembered when I was a child, when it was snowing outside and the cold wind was blowing. Our family was happily gathered around the stove, and you accompanied me to watch cartoons. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and then he replied softly, "Understood. Let's go and watch it together. It just so happens that your mother and I haven't been to the cinema for a long time." Thank you, Augustin. Huaxia, Yanjing. Zhangchu, a college student, returned home, then turned on the computer on the table and landed on the commonly used Shitsi Hutong. More than half an hour later, a post titled, "Transformers, That Was My Childhood," appeared, recording a childhood dream in rustic words. I can't remember what grade I was. Maybe it was the 4th grade. It could be the 5th grade. Every day after school, I would stay in front of the TV on time, waiting for the appearance of the gourd baby, the black cat sheriff, and the little monk Ishio. But then they all disappeared, and Sheriff Black Cat stayed and disappeared after watching the next episode. On Friday afternoon, I sat on the little bench and turned on the TV, and this time I had never seen a new image before. The imaginative robots, the gorgeous transformations, the first time I saw it, I will never forget. It is Transformers. Since then, I have had new topics and hobbies with many of my classmates and friends. I still remember that during recess we would run outside the classroom to roleplay, but because I was small, I was always assigned to the Decepticon camp, and they wouldn't let me be Megatron, and even the Red Spider wouldn't be able to do my turn, so it would be nice to get a sonic wave. We'd roll the book into a barrel and use it as a barrel, shout the power cannon with our mouths, fire it. Once I went to the house of the little fat man Zhou Xiaobing. His father should be an official, so there are a lot of toys at home, and I came into contact with real Transformers toys for the first time at his house. He also taught me to make Optimus Prime with plasticine, but since I didn't have the money to buy plasticine, I had to make earthy yellow dolls by myself when I got home. Later, when the cartoon ended, we didn't have a channel to watch the new one, but we heard that Optimus Prime and Megatron had died together, and when we heard the news, everyone was very angry and felt that their faith had collapsed. Later, as I grew older, Transformers slowly faded out of my vision. It wasn't until not long ago that the news about Transformers in China seemed to come alive suddenly, and I didn't know that it turned out to be a live-action movie about to be released. At that moment, my childhood memories seemed to come alive, so I walked into the cinema with my 9-year-old nephew. But my little nephew was too young to understand a lot of the plots, so he asked me who this robot was. "Who is that?" I said, "Don't bother with that. Do you like it?" The little nephew nodded and said that he liked it very much. This kind of imaginative robot and gorgeous transformation action was something he had never seen before, and it was completely different from Pokémon, Duck Detective, and Jackie Chan Adventure. I said I just like it. They're Transformers. They are my childhood, and I believe it will be your childhood. There was a response soon after the post was sent, and William Chu's childhood was also the childhood of countless people. Sina's Inxing World, Maopu, Tianya, and other forums have also appeared in related discussions. Even the two film and television enthusiast forums of Watching Movies in the Back Window and Movie Night Sailing, which have always prided themselves on being serious, focusing on art films and academic value, have also seen a lot of discussions. However, most of the members of these two forums are teachers and students from Nortel, China Opera, Beiguang, and other universities, so the discussion of business is secondary, and it is more about studying the gap between Chinese films in terms of technology. United Kingdom, France, Germany, South Korea, Australia. In just one day, Transformers has won worldwide acclaim for its gorgeous special effects, cool transformations, shocking war scenes, and praise of human courage. Eric read these reviews carefully, and it was a wonderful feeling that the fruits of his labor were recognized by everyone. Of course, not everyone is satisfied, and there are some bad reviews. For example, The Independent newspaper, this newspaper has already published a film review the next day. The efficiency is really high, but the heart is really bad, and it is more or less against MGM with the idea that driving away a group of audiences is a group. It was published under the title, An Old Work That Disappointed Anime Fans. I went to the cinema yesterday to watch the much-anticipated Transformers. I can only say that the plot is old-fashioned and old-fashioned. It is still a treasure-hunting mode, and the battle between good and evil is layered. If it's just a cliché, forget it, but the most important thing is that the movie doesn't restore those Transformers in the anime. Their appearance, weapons, and personalities, except for Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, the other Transformers are like toolmen who make up the numbers. The mechanical giants who can destroy the planet at every turn can be blocked by the human army and can be injured by the human weapons. This situation is really not Transformers. So I advise anime fans who want to see the real restoration to give up. You won't find any respect for the original here. It's all just a bunch of boring special effects, just the young director's self-fantasy. The Independence evaluation fully reflects that sentence. As long as you want to hack you, no matter how good you do, you will find ways to hack you. Will anyone believe in this kind of thing? There will definitely be. But are many who believe? The facts speak for themselves. On November 18th, Transformers grossed $39.7 million at the box office, down less than 12%. On November 19th, word of mouth continued to ferment, especially the word of mouth of passers-by. Transformers continued to gross $30.3 million, down 23.6% from the previous day. For a film's all-important first-week 3-day box office, Transformers ended up earning $119 million. Once again, it broke the record of $114 million held by Spider-Man and led by more than $5 million. You must know that the day of the release of Spider-Man is a 3-day weekend, a day off for students and office workers. And Transformers is released from Monday to Wednesday, and many people want to watch it but can't find the time. This gap is like a big gap between the summer schedule and the usual schedule. Sam Raimi, the director of Spider-Man, also congratulated in an interview and declared that next year's Spider-Man 2 will bring the scene back. But the public is not optimistic about this, because according to the law, the sequels of most works are not as good as the first episode.
Bang!
A cannon salute rang out, and Eric waved his hand. Full spurt. Increase publicity. Let's continue to soar. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's Conan show. I'm host Batiltis. Let's welcome host Conan O'Brien together. In the studio, with a high-pitched baritone in the dark, the lights turned on instantly, and the band next to it began to play, and Conan O'Brien, a little golden retriever, ran out of the backstage. After twisting left and right and making a few riotous movements, Conan greeted the audience with his hands outstretched to the beat of the drums. I know you're not here to see my new hairstyle, so let's bring out today's protagonist, the most terrifying, and long-winded Megatron.
Bang 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 cuckoo kiki.
In the midst of applause and cheers, Megatron was invited to the stage due to the early publicity of Transformers by a bed. Mr. Way has already accumulated a lot of popularity. MGM even opened a Facebook account specifically for him, and it has gained more than 1 million fans in more than a month, which is higher than many celebrities. This time, in order to promote the movie, the crew of Transformers specially came to participate in the Conan show, which has been very popular in recent years. Eric and Conan met at the Emmy Awards, where the other was one of the hosts, and he had a good impression of the latter. And as a person in the circle, Eric also watched this show before the crossing, and at first knew that this talk show started with Da Peng. At that time, Da Peng had not yet filmed Dick Silkman and became popular, although Dick Silkman also plagiarized Dick Silk Lady. At that time, the program he hosted was Da Peng Bang Bang, and the show openly plagiarized the opening of The Conan Show and was directly humiliated. This incident had a certain impact at the time, which made Da Peng a little black and red, and also made Eric watch The Conan Show for a while. Before the show officially starts, let me say one thing. I got the news that a soldier who participated in Afghanistan lost his dandan in the war. Luckily, someone donated their dandan transplant to the other party, and this person is currently sitting in the audience. Conan said that the picture gave a man with intelligent eyes, and several women sitting next to him peeked at his crotch, although they knew it was a joke, but they couldn't help but cover their mouths and snicker when they looked at the bandaged crotch. First of all, sir, thank you for your sacrifice, but I really don't understand. After all, as a man, this sacrifice is a bit too much. I've heard of the old man with a surplus of eggs, but you really don't leave yourself the slightest way out. The wise man proudly said, "It's nothing, he needs me to cut it off and give it to him. Anyway, it will grow back after a while." What? Conan looked at the other in surprise. Why? Why do you think this way? It told me. The wise man pointed at Megatron. Conan looked at by a bed in surprise. I saw Megatron clasping his hands on his chest and shaking his head slightly. I'm sorry, I was a little busy yesterday, so I didn't hear clearly. Well, at the time, I thought you were talking about cock, and of course you can buy or raise chickens when they are gone, but I didn't expect you to say dick. You really should make it clear or ask an ambulance to help. Maybe he can put you in an electric one. You know, it's a Cybertron special edition. Ha 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 ha. In the laughter of the audience, the man's wise eyes looked at the ceiling, which seemed even more comical. At this time, the camera was given to a female audience, and she was seen looking at Megatron with interest. Oh my god, don't tell me you're interested in Cybertron Edition, ma'am. Why not? Ha 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 ha. Conan clapped his hands. Okay, that's the end of the joke. Let's invite the Transformers crew to the stage with warm applause. Eric, Godot, and Chris Evans walked out of the backstage and sat down on the couch. This is the first time Eric has appeared on a variety show like a talk show. In general, he still prefers to stay behind the scenes and try to show his face as little as possible. Popularity is not important to me. After you go out, you have to be pinned and pointed at when you go out. You can't play happily with your sister. But in order to promote the movie, I also had to go on it. Think about the fact that Dong Wang and Ao Guanhai have been on it. What is it to compare myself with others? You know what? Now you're the hottest star in the country, and everybody's going crazy talking about it. Chris Evans shrugged. Godot is, I'm not. I don't have as many Facebook fans as Megatron. Because the Earth technology comes from me, I can be as high as I want. Haven't you watched the movie? Yes, but I didn't pay attention to this detail. My attention was always on Godot's legs. Eric pretended to look at him in surprise. As the leading actor, you don't even watch your own movies seriously. It seems that the sequel should be replaced. Whatever, anyway, everyone says Ryan Reynolds is the actor. Ha 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 ha. In just a few words, Chris Evans spit out the points ridiculed by many fans recently, which immediately caused a burst of laughter. He continued, I'm not even as good as Godot. She can play more than I can. Conan looked at Eric. Director, your vision doesn't seem to be very good, and the actor is a little not very well behaved. It doesn't matter. He just wants to play more. He wants to be stronger. It won't be long before the next movie will satisfy him. Just don't shout pain when the time comes. Of course, the more the merrier. Eric smiled. Sample, when the filming of Captain America starts next year, you will wait to go shirtless. Godot, your heroine is really highlight. Rorhei, have you really learned Chinese Kung Fu? Godot waved his hand. Not at all. I just follow Eric's requirements, exercise my physical strength every day, and make myself look beautiful and powerful. Conan pouted and leaned back. It looks like yes, your biceps are bigger than all of me, as if a punch can make me lie down. Ha 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 ha. I noticed the final casino battle. You drove a bumblebee to make a difficult flying car move. Did you use a stuntman? No, I played it myself. Don't believe you ask them. I must have suffered a lot of injuries. Drifting, flicking, braking hard. It's not easy. Yes, abrasions, sprains, ankle bones, arms, backs. In short, injuries are the norm, and every time I finish a scene like this, I have to relax. There's a spa. And the spa, but something strange happened, and that time I went to a new spa. The waiter took me in and said, here is the public bath. This is the changing room. You can take off your clothes and go to the bath. I was a little surprised and asked him, do you need to change into underwear? And then the guy told me no. I thought he was going to say you can wear a bathrobe or something, but I said you have to be naked, and I glared at him. Conan said with interest, maybe it's only for you. What a clever lad. He should come to work with me. Ha 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 ha. Under the favorable situation, Transformers started an intensive propaganda offensive, and The Conan Show, The Ellen Show, and The Chicken Feather Show all ran away. Forget about Oprah's talk show. Eric hates this black fat woman, and her character is even more scum. Even if the other party takes the initiative to invite, he forbids the crew to go. On November 23rd, the box office of Transformers was released for a week, and countless people and countless pairs of eyes were staring at it until the moment the data was released. The $188 million box office still blinded everyone's eyes. Excluding inflation, in terms of numbers, $188 million has already broken the weekly box office record in North America. The original number one was still Spider-Man, and Peter Parker was kicked off the throne again. The second place, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, can only move downward. The third place, The Matrix 2 Reloaded, has only been sitting for half a year, and it must obediently give up its seat and return the crown of the third place. This figure has really exceeded Eric's expectations, and he originally predicted that the box office would reach $170 million in a week. And the box office forecast given by analysts at Box and other institutions is 155 million in the first week, which is more conservative than Eric. What I didn't expect was that the Autobots and Decepticons were too powerful, and in addition, the students and office workers had plenty of time to relax during the 3 days of the weekend. With the accumulation of word of mouth, these people immediately rushed into the cinema. Among them, the box office on Friday was the strangest. It was more than $2 million more than Thursday, and the downward trend of the box office on Saturday and Sunday also slowed down significantly, maintaining about 15% per day. According to the survey, the movie-watching group is also significantly different from the general blockbuster. Students and teenagers are naturally still the main force, but the group of moviegoers over 35 years old has reached nearly 40% of the total number, far exceeding about 30% of ordinary blockbusters. Spotting a new business opportunity, MGM's team immediately expanded its promotional tools. Hire gunmen, hire trolls to build momentum on the internet and in the media. The focus of the propaganda is to watch Transformers, reminisce about a good childhood, and vow to pull another group of middle-aged people into the cinema. As for the opponents of Transformers, they are naturally a ghost-crying wolf, and major film and television companies are mourning. The first to bear the brunt was Miramax's Polar Expedition, which was released 3 days earlier than Transformers and only got $25 million at the box office. On the fourth day, the Autobots were impacted, and the results were even more miserable, with only more than 2 million box office harvested in one day. It has been released for 10 days now, and the results have reached $32 million and even dropped 1 million in a single day on Sunday. What Russell Crowe, what Peter Weir, what Oscar Best Director and Best Actor, all of them are not good. Compared to the cost of up to $150 million, it is predictable that it will not be possible to lose when the pants are not good. The media interviewed Harvey Weinstein, and the other party didn't let out a single fart and left with a black face. It is said that the original publicity has also been cancelled, and it is embarrassing to do propaganda at this level. How bad it is to advertise itself. Now Miramax can only hope for overseas markets, and the theme of naval battles may be eaten in Spain, Britain, Southeast Asia, and other regions. If it still fails, The Wind Whisperer is its fate. Polar Expedition was swept into the garbage, and it was just as uncomfortable as the other films. The Matrix 3 was also squeezed at the box office in the third week, taking only $14 million and currently grossing $111 million in North America. Compared with The Matrix 2 in the summer, it is really inferior. Just like what many media and fans have commented, watching 2, The Matrix, a year makes people a little aesthetically tired. Warner is too anxious to make money. At least it should be like The Lord of the Rings. 1 a year is the limit, giving the market some time to recover. There are indeed some die-hard fans who are waiting to be fed, and they can't wait to watch 3 at once. But it is also necessary to consider the tolerance of the average audience. When several equally wonderful blockbusters are placed in front of them, will they choose a somewhat homogeneous movie, or is it more fresh? Eric thinks that Harry Potter has done a good job in this regard, and until Deathly Hallows, it has maintained a rate of 1 or 2 years a year. Not fast, not slow, not in a hurry. The audience's appetite is hung up again, and the company can make a lot of money. Don't look at The Matrix 3 is already miserable, but it still sits in the second place at the box office for a week. The third place, Christmas Elf, is no longer halved compared to the previous week's box office of $33 million. Only $13 million is left this week. People seem to have been ignited by Transformers and suddenly lost interest in this kind of theme that focuses on warmth and softness. And Disney's masterpiece, Haunted House, has already grossed less than $5 million, and it is uncertain whether it can reach $3 million next week. As for the remaining small fish and shrimp, don't mention it. Is the market miserable? Of course miserable, except for Transformers. Other movies are about to cry, and many crews can only humbly ask for help. But the audience doesn't like it, and no matter how much they ask for help, it's useless. But is the market good? It's also good. Because compared to the same period last year, the total box office performance has increased by 11%, and the upward trend is obvious, which is a very good signal, but most of the benefits have fallen into the mouth of MGM. In addition to MGM, there is also a part that naturally fell into the hands of theaters. So the theater that arranged Transformers was also very happy. They could make a lot more money than last year, and they couldn't wait to call Eric to thank you. And the theater owner who ignored the Transformers could only beat his chest and pause, and he couldn't change it if he wanted to. Contracts are all signed in advance, and you can only show these films for at least a month. Even if there is only one audience for each polar expedition, the cinema must show it. Even if you don't have an audience, you can't put another movie. Because major film and television companies have investigators, they will pretend to be viewers and go to the cinema for random spot checks. Once the violation is discovered, the film and television company has the right to sue, and the movie theater is waiting to lose money. If that happens, Miramax will be happy. Because the money lost can always make up for part of the box office loss. But even if you miss the first month, you can still drink some soup. I can't drink the soup, so I can wash a bowl. There are no bowls left, so at least let me smell them. So there are still many theater owners who missed Transformers, and they hurriedly came to ask for the source of the film, and they can make a little money, and they also need to make up for the losses caused by Polar Expedition. Under the powerful propaganda offensive, the time came to November 27th. Another 4 days of screenings, Transformers once again grossed nearly $60 million, and the box office approached $250 million in 11 days, still pressing a lot of movies to the ground. And just today, Miramax has been the focus of publicity, and the second blockbuster, Kill Bill, in November will be released. The media predicted that Kill Bill would take over from the Polar Expedition and start a real battle with Transformers and chop off the heads of the Autobots, who had been in the second week with a katana. Movie fans and major companies are paying attention, and theater owners are also hoping to make the market even hotter. But will it really be what they expect? Two figures hugged each other and lingered, and it had been more than 10 minutes since the beginning of the movie, and the man was still gnawing on the woman. Feeling the fire in his body burning more and more, Theron could only struggle and struggle before pushing Eric away. She looked at the audience in the front row and gently pounded Eric's chest. Enough is enough, dear, it will be heard. Hee, everyone is concentrating on watching the movie. Who cares? Sit down. You really hate it. I also want to watch the movie. Well, the plot is very exciting. After all, it is Quentin's work. Eric forced the other man into his thigh and touched the inside with one hand. Did you know that Quentin Guy likes women's feet, and it is said that he spent $10,000 to wrap a woman's feet in a nightclub for half an hour? Hearing this, Theron's eyes widened. It's too exaggerated. Everyone knows that he has a foot fetish, and some people say that in his movies, women take off their shoes more often than airport security. But that's too much. It's kind of disgusting to think about, and if someone does this, I can't stand it. As she spoke, she added, "Of course, except for your dear, if you want to lick it, I will be very happy." Eric immediately bit her earlobe and flicked her tongue slightly. "Why don't we go home now?" Theron looked at the big screen. "Wait, the movie is really good. Let's watch it, and you don't need to know your opponent?" Quentin Tarantino is not worthy of being my opponent, and I admit that he is indeed a genius director, and he is unique in both script writing and filming. He's got his own identity, he's got his own unique style, and that style has made up a loyal following. But because it is too distinctive, the shooting is all R-grade. So many people can't accept his style, and R-grade wants to compare with PG-13, which is almost a fool's dream. In terms of the rating system alone, Transformers has already won too much. Even if it has been released for 10 days, it may not lose to him. Eric's daring to say such a conclusion is naturally based on a certain judgment. He has basically seen Quentin's movies, and the highest box office is Django Unchained, which looks like about 4 or 5 billion, but it is already the peak of his commercial career, and it is also an era of great prosperity in the global film market. Kill Bill is indeed a classic, but if you want to collide with Transformers, I'm afraid it's a little overwhelming. Quentin's advantages are similar to those of Jackie Chan and Jet Li, and he sells well in the disc market, but the box office can only rank first class among Hollywood directors. And he will never reach the top level of Chris Columbus, Spielberg, George Lucas, Nolan. It's still that reason. The personal style has been limited to death, and the ceiling is so high that no matter how hard you try, you can't break it. And it is even more impossible for a director to change his style, and the end of the forced change can only be unpleasing to ordinary audiences and loyal fans. Wow, Uma Thurman can be so cool. Bruce Lee wears a nice dress on her.
Oh.
Watched as the image suddenly turned black and white. Blood sprayed like champagne, severed limbs, skulls flying, and could even split a person in half with a single slash. The audience exclaimed from time to time, and some couldn't help but close their eyes. Although I knew it was R-rated before I came in, it was too much. If it weren't for the black and white of the footage, these shots would not even be able to tolerate an R rating and would have been deleted. OMG, while the fight is beautiful, it's also bloody, Theron said with a frown. Eric hugged her tighter and tighter. You see, that's what I'm talking about. Even adults think it's too bloody. How high can the box office be? In fact, he still has nothing to say in his heart. For people who are used to watching Chinese martial arts movies, the battles in Kill Bill are too child's play, and the sense of beauty and power is insufficient. The final battle ended hastily, allowing Lucy Liu, who was coaxed in the early stage, to easily receive the lunch. But after all, the main target is Japanese sword and halberd films, such as Shura Snowheim. After the movie ended, many people's faces were not very good. There were reporters outside the venue who were randomly interviewing, and they heard words such as bloody, too bloody, and not suitable for minors. After lingering with Theron all night, the next day there were already quite a few reviews of Kill Bill. Although there are many people who say that it is refreshing and enjoyable, it is very exciting to watch, and this is Quentin Tarantino's style. But there are also media and audiences who criticize the movie for going too far, and Quentin seems to have fallen into a state of madness. And at the premiere, Lucy Liu advised the audience that they might not be able to stand vomiting when watching this movie, and they should be mentally prepared in advance. Even Quentin himself appealed. Responsible parents should never take their children to watch Kill Bill that may leave a shadow on them. The film's creator actually advised the audience to be cautious when entering the cinema and tearing down their own tables. This behavior immediately caused displeasure among the Weinstein brothers, and it is said that even Disney, the father behind Miramax, was also unhappy. But it's not the same thing that makes them unhappy. Although Disney acquired Miramax, it has always given the latter full freedom, never intervened in the operation, and just made money for me. Therefore, Disney does not participate in the creation, shooting, internal test screening, and other aspects of the movie launched by Miramax. They believe that the Weinstein brothers know in their hearts who is the king. And Kill Bill is completely contrary to Disney's long-standing style of being suitable for all ages. It doesn't matter if you lose at the box office, Dad can forgive you, because movies are inherently risky. But if the ideas and thoughts are not consistent with Dad, then it cannot be tolerated, and this kind of behavior is dangerous. It must be corrected. It must be corrected with a heavy punch. The time came to November 28th, and Transformers won nearly $15 million at the box office on Friday, and the data is still impressive. Kill Bill $116 million at the box office, with more than 2,400 theaters. A narrow victory. Although Transformers has the advantage in the number of theaters released, Kill Bill has the advantage in terms of release time. And the box office on the first day won the box office on the 12th day, which seemed to win, but in fact lost. By the time the box office came out on Saturday, in the face of criticism from the media and audiences, the negative impact really began to appear. Kill Bill only won more than $9 million at the box office, a drop of more than 40%, which surprised many people. Transformers made $12 million at the box office, only one day behind, and the backhand surpassed the opponent again. Entering December, the box office was announced on Sunday. Kill Bill continued to plummet, leaving only $5 million and $30 million in 3 days of its opening weekend. Transformers is still an old tradition, falling but not much, still remaining within 20%, and got $10 million at the box office. In the last 3 days of the second weekend, a total of $37 million was grossed, and the number of middle-aged people in the movie-going crowd dragged their families increased significantly. Yahoo Entertainment, the New York Times, the Chicago Post, and other media outlets immediately published news in the entertainment section. Kill Bill lost, and it was a miserable loss, and the statement that he had to cut off the head of a transformer with a katana seems extremely hilarious now. However, there are also media touting from other angles, such as Kill Bill costs only $30 million, and judging by the current trend, Miramax is sure to make a lot of money. And the $30 million box office has already broken the company's first-week 3-day record and also broke Quentin's own record. His previous best result was $9.31 million for Pulp Fiction. So if you lose to others, but win yourself, that is not to lose. Things have come to this point, and the so-called box office war has come to an early end. Transformers won $97 million at the box office in the second week, and $285 million at the North American box office in half a month. The overseas box office has also been a hit. After hitting $173 million in the first week, it won $95 million this week, a smaller decline than in North America. At present, Transformers has a total of $553 million at the global box office. Kill crazy. Definitely kill crazy. This figure temporarily ranked fourth in the 2003 box office list. Ahead of it are Finding Nemo $871 million worldwide, The Matrix 2, Reloaded $739 million, and Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl $654 million. 2 belong to Disney and 1 to Warner. According to the predictions of major institutions, even this Friday, Warner's blockbuster, The Last Samurai, will be released in theaters. But Quentin has already proved with Kill Bill that the chrysanthemum culture is vulnerable to Cybertron tech. Even if Tom personally went into battle, no one was optimistic that he would be able to stop the Autobots and Decepticons from continuing to charge. So after the end of this week, Transformers will definitely surpass Pirates of the Caribbean at the global box office and rise to third place. It's uncertain whether The Matrix 2 will make it to the 4th or 5th week, but it's certain that it will be defeated. No one dares to ignore Eric's rhetoric, and many media outlets have turned up the previous report. Mr. Cooper, what do you expect Transformers to do at the box office? I think it's going to be over $700 million. The interview a year ago is still vivid. How many people ridiculed at the beginning, and now how many people are slapped in the face. Die-hard fans ridiculed this topic over and over again, praising Eric higher and higher, and urging him to work overtime and make sure to get the second part out by the end of next year. With the joy of a box office hit, with the blessings of fans, and with Theron, Nico, and Olsen sisters for another day, Eric and Godot embarked on a flight to Asia. The global campaign was divided into 2 main lines, with the 2 responsible for Asia and Australia. Little Cheap and Chris Evans were in charge of South America and then Europe. The rest continued to stay in North America to do propaganda. The first stop is Japan, although Eric doesn't have a good impression of the small day, but Japan is a big ticket collection, and he still has to come in order to make money. I stayed here for 2 days, and on the first day I did an interview with Hayao Miyazaki. For the director who made such distinct anti-war works as Grave of the Fireflies and Porco Rosso, Eric still maintains respect. What's more, he also urged Abe, who had his chest wide open, to apologize and reflect on the history of World War II's invasion of China, and he was an artist with a conscience. The next day, he appeared on the Japanese national variety show, SMAP Times SMAP, and played with Takuya Kimura and 4 other hosts. As for why the other 4 people are said, because Eric and Godot can't remember each other's names. Eric is too lazy to remember. Godot really can't remember. During the period, I also met with the company leaders of Shonen Jump, Shogakukan, and Shueisha, and talked about the road to film and television adaptation of anime IP in their hands, such as Death Note, Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Full Metal Alchemist, Ghost in the Shell, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and so on. These high-quality comics are gold mines, and it would be best if they could get the copyright in advance before the fire broke out. Several companies naturally have a lot of ideas about this, especially when they saw Transformers kill all sides, win the Japanese box office championship for 2 consecutive weeks, and sweep everything around the world. Who cannot be blushing? This meeting can be regarded as a cooperation intention, and the specific content will be discussed in detail after Eric is busy with this time. Of course, what we are talking about here is the right to adapt film and television, and as for the right to distribute comics, they are all engaged in by the branches established by the Japanese in the United States. Eric has also completed the control of Marvel, which is equivalent to having the ability to create comics and distribute them, but if he wants to get a piece of the pie, he has to think of another way. After leaving Japan, the 2 flew to South Korea, and although the potential of the Styx box office is not as good as that of Japan, it is also among the top in Asia. So although Eric doesn't have a good impression of them, he still has to be interesting for the box office. The 2 stayed here for another day, giving an exclusive interview to South Korea's KBS TV, and Eric was invited to dinner by the head of Shijia Entertainment. Although the other party is a first-class film and television company in South Korea, it is no different from a small fish and shrimp in Hollywood. Naturally, I want to seek cooperation, hoping to get some investment shares or get the agency rights of MGM movies in South Korea, etc. After the meal, I wanted to invite Eric to experience the special service, but because Godot was next to him, he was too embarrassed to accept it. When I returned to the hotel, I couldn't help but regret it. Why did I have to be on a team with Godot? If I was on a team with Ryan Reynolds, then I wouldn't take off. It's a pity that it's all over now. At around 10 a.m. on December 5th, a plane landed at Yenjing International Airport. When the 2 of them walked in the hall, Godot's beautiful appearance suddenly attracted a lot of attention. Soon, a young man with glasses approached and asked in fluent English, "Are you the heroine of Transformers?" The first time he came to Huaxia, Godot thought that no one knew him, so the 2 of them didn't hide it at all. Showing a Leon-light smile, "Yes, I'm Gal Gadot." The young man immediately waved his hand not far away and shouted, "That's her, come here." Boom! Suddenly, more than a dozen people ran over, all of them wearing small things related to Transformers. "I found your itinerary from MGM's official website, and we've been waiting for more than an hour." Godot looked at the men and women in front of him who were about the same as him, or even a few years older, with some surprise. "Really? I'm sorry that the plane was delayed, and I made you wait so long. Is there anything I can make up for? Is it okay to sign autographs or take a group photo?" The young people nodded and cheered. At this time, in China, the Hong Kong Circle is popular, The Korean wave has invaded, and star chasing has become more and more common, and it is becoming more and more crazy. But on the other hand, celebrities are getting colder and colder, and they are becoming more and more difficult to see. Where have they ever met an approachable star like Godot or a big Hollywood star, and the coffee rank is far higher than that of the Korean wave? Then there were people who took turns signing autographs and taking photos, and some people took out unopened genuine Transformers toys from their bags and wanted to sign them on the box. This situation quickly attracted the attention of the people around them, and in the spirit of knowing whether they knew each other or not, they also got an autograph to show off, and others gradually gathered together. Seeing that the delay was endless, Eric could only call Susan. In the end, they were surrounded in the hall for more than half an hour, signed hundreds of names, and they were finally rescued by Susan and others. Waved his hand to the fans who were a little regretful, and hurriedly got in the car and left.